Hi, I'm Scott Farber, and I've been a Cubs fan for my whole life. I can verify that this statement is pretty typical of living life as a Cubs fan. Through all the years since before your great-grandmother was born, that is, not since October 15th, 1908, when the Chicago Tribune ran the headline, "Cubs Supreme in Baseball World," have the Cubs delivered the big elation to their fans. Yes, the Cubbies had just won the World Series, and it hasn't happened again in almost a century.
And ever since then, guys like me made a pact with God to stay alive long enough to see him win the next World Series.
For the past 97 years, Cub fans have lived with the mantra, wait till next year. For over 3 generations, they have been called loyal forever, diehards, and sometimes deluded. Looking over the baseball standings from the past century or so, it's clear that the Cubbies seldom flounder in the cellar, seldom leave their fans dejected for decades, seldom rank as outright losers, as many clubs in both leagues indeed have. Oh, sure, there were many years that were down years, and then, when I was a kid, another disappointing cycle during the 60s and 70s, while they had Sano and Kessinger, Beckert, and the legendary Mr. Cub Ernie Banks at first was indeed leading the team. Let's play 2 today. But one thing that keeps the fans coming back year after year is that the Cubs are often almost a champ and seldom are losing bad.
Unfortunately, it's a period that lives in infamy in Cubs history, but the '69 season was marvelous. It was, in a sense, the best moment because people had more fun for a while until the collapse.
Until August.
And it was such a turnaround. It was such a turnaround for the Cubs because there'd been a drought for so many years. And I think that period of time when they were in contention before they fell apart in September and it was clear they weren't going to make it was probably the best time. There was as much fun going on at the ballpark then with the bleacher bums and people really enjoying themselves at the ballpark for the game for the first time in a long time. For so many years, they'd been at the bottom of the standings. Remember DeRocher's statement when he got to the Cubs, this is not an 8th place team, and they expanded to 10 teams. He's right. They ended up, a 10th place team, I think, that year. So he was right about that. So there had been so many years when the Cubs had done poorly. It was just wonderful. There was a sense of what a great season, even though people were depressed.
You know, as bad as the Cubs were, you got to give them something because they had... in my memory, they had 4 pitchers pitch no-hitters.
One of those no-hitters came on May 13th, 1960. Yep, I saw it live on TV as it happened.
Against Cardwell so far. Ball 3, strike 1. Come on, Don, get it in there. That is a strike.
Don Cardwell, who was traded to the Cubs just 2 days prior, pitched a great game.
Watch it. There's a drive on the line to left field. Come on, Moose. He did it. He did it.
I've got Cardwell's signature on a baseball. Later that summer, the Cubs' first baseman, Ed Boucher, spoke at my Little League banquet. I told him that I was going to be at the game the next day and asked if he could please get me an autographed ball. He said to meet him at the dugout 1 hour before the game. Well, you know I was there, and much to my surprise, he popped out of the dugout, looked around, spotted me, smiled, and tossed me the ball. Every player had signed it. Ernie, Ron, Billy, all of them, including no-hit pitcher Don Cardwell. Then there was Kenny Holtzman, great left-hander, often compared to another lefty, Sandy Koufax. Kenny was in the Army when he first joined the Cubs. Leo Durocher was the manager back then. Kenny would donate blood on Fridays to get a weekend pass so he could pitch for the Cubs on Saturdays. In August of 1969, he pitched his first of 2 no-hitters for the Cubs. Yeah, I saw that one live on TV too. Jack Brickhouse also makes this call.
The throw to Banks. It's a no-hitter. It's a no-hitter for Kenny Holtzman.
In 1971, Kenny left the Cubs for the Oakland A's, where of course he pitched for a World Series winner.
They had Banks winning Most Valuable Player twice. They had Dawson, Most Valuable Player once. Sauer was the Most Valuable Player once.
Why do we keep going out there when they don't win? Is it something about chasing the dream and not quite getting it?
Born and raised on the north side and went to see the Cubs play all the time. Beautiful Wrigley Field. Day baseball.
If it's about the field. And why do you get so upset when we lose?
You mean they've been losing?
We walked over to a popular Northside restaurant, Ditka's, to sit and chat with some hand-picked baseball fanatics, all of whom we knew to be both devoted and knowledgeable Cub fans. How hard is it to be a Cub fan?
It's one of these things where I don't know that you can be a casual Cub fan. I don't know if there is such a thing. You have to wear your heart on the sleeve, and you have to sit there and say, could any more injuries happen, and are we doing 1985 all over again? We made it to within a couple outs of the playoff or of the promised land of the World Series. Granted, we had 3 shots at it and couldn't pull it through. But it's not that we are disappointed. I am disappointed with last season because of that. But it's like it's really an accomplishment. That was our first playoff win in 40 years, in 45 years.
It's a heartbreaking, but not for the real hardened Cub fans. We know this is just something that's going to happen, and you get through to the next year. A bunch of years go by, and we're ready for more.
I love them, and I don't care. I don't care who knows it. I just love them. And I've raised a couple more. They're coming up now.
Attaboy.
Does anybody remember back in the early 60s, the old guy with just one tooth in his mouth selling Frosty Malts, Frosty Malts? When I couldn't find him, I was worried until I saw him at the next game. Those are the memories you take away from Wrigley as a kid.
When I used to go, they used to throw sandwiches to Bill Nicholson in right field.
And when was that?
Oh, in the late 30s, early 40s. Because one time somebody threw a sandwich and he grabbed it and he started to eat it while he was standing in right field. After that, it became something to do. They'd come with sandwiches. He'd stuff them in his pockets and he'd keep playing. I was probably in high school, and I'm not going to tell you when.
What about Ladies' Day?
Oh, Ladies' Day was a little later for me because I used to take my daughter, who was 3, and used to get in for nothing. But if you paid $1, you could go to a box seat. And there were so many box seats to choose from, you could sit wherever you wanted. That's how crowded it was.
First Ladies' Day they had the greatest attendance ever in Chicago Cup history. They had close to 52,000 people out there, of which over 30,000 of them
Were free.
were ladies and free. 19,700 paid.
What about Father's Day?
They also had a Father and Son Day, which I used to attend, hoping to find a father who would take me into the ballpark. God, that had to be back about 1936, 37.
Did you climb the walls to get in ever?
Once or twice. Yes, we used to scale the front wall, by, not the back walls because there was nothing to hold on to, but the front walls where the signs are, in Wrigley Field. There used to be a lot of second-story climbers up there.
That's when they really were bleacher bums. I mean, it was not just the name they gave to the fans out there, but these guys out there really were a bunch of bums. And, they'd have a great time and they'd get everybody in the ballpark
The
going.
best thing that I enjoyed when I was a kid, I used to sit in the bleachers and watch these guys bet.
Oh, yeah.
They'd have their dollar bills or whatever they had between their fingers
It's been
like
going
this.
on forever.
They used to bet that he wouldn't reach first.
A
They used to
foul
bet
ball
he'd
or-
strike out.
What's the next
and
pitch?
you know, they were all very honest. I mean, they used to take that bet and they'd pay for it much later. But everybody, I used to sit and watch them instead of the game. It was so much fun. I want to tell you something. In those days, they used to have, the upper grandstand was always empty. And so they used to give tickets to the boys' clubs and girls' clubs in the city, or any of the summer camps. And then we'd get those tickets and we would take a group of kids down to the game. They'd line us up in an old schoolyard somewhere. And I was always assigned about 12 boys I used to take. And we would sit in the upper grandstand. And the days that I didn't get a bunch of kids to take, because I was still young enough, like 15 years old, I used to go as one of the kids with somebody else who used to take them. It was fun. We used to have hundreds of kids up there in the grandstand, you know. Right.
Jack Brickhouse used to call beautiful Wrigley Field, come out to the ballpark because it was such a nice place. And they tried to sell the ballpark and not the team. And we on the schoolyard used to say beautiful Wrigley Field, where the park is beautiful, but the team stinks.
Here we go again.
Almost anybody who was born between 1945 and 1958 and says he was a Cubs fan as a kid is a liar, with the exception of 2 kids in our school, and we were on the north side. Everyone was a Sox fan.
Were you a Cub fan?
Oh, boy, that's a tough one. I don't know, it's a real metaphysical question.
were you
Yeah,
born?
That's nonsense.
For the last 92 seasons since Wrigley Field was built in 1914, fans have filled the friendly confines to cheer every inning and to boo just a few while waiting for the Northside home team to deliver another championship. Just what is it about the mystique of wait till next year? Is this our year? We wanted to know. And if not, why next year? And can we wait any longer?
The one thing I think that's missing from this season is the come from behind victories, the magic of, you know, the fairy dust of someone's touching down on us. That doesn't seem to be here yet. We got 110 games left, so hopefully we turn it around.
Yeah.
We always want them to win. I mean, that was, but what happens when they win it all? What happens next year? Do they lose the mystique? Is it kind of like, I hope not. Now it's not just going there and having a good time. I mean, yeah, we always wanted them to win. Did we think they were? No. Now do we really believe they are? Yeah. I mean, I believe it.
We'd love to win.
Sure.
It's Charlie Brown all over again. Part of me was terrified of playing the Boston Red Sox and having to have one team win. The world would end.
Armageddon would fall upon us, and we would have nowhere to go.
Right. I think it might turn it up a notch emotionally. We were talking on the way up here that this year there's so much expectation.
Right.
I'm living and dying with every game.
Yeah.
It's one game out of 162 or whatever it is. But I'm panicking.
Yeah. All cannons are pointing at him this year, and I think pitchers are having their best games against our staff just because ours is so heralded, and there's something sort of missing. I hope this team can pull it out this year, but I think the aura of expectation was so heaped on them, and the SI curse and every curse known to man is on this team right now. So if they were to do it, it would be quite a turnaround. But I mean, this is going to be a tough one with the expectation that was there at the beginning of the season.
Tell me what's so great about being a Cubs fan?
A great team. They'll always win next year. I just love them. They're a lot better than this North Side. Great place to be out here in Wrigleyville.
Aren't they going to win this year?
They can win this year. They win every year. They could win. There's always a possibility.
How about our chances for a series this year? What do you think, Robert? Do you think we got a chance for the series this year?
It's for sure. We're going to win the series, take everything. It's done. Done deal. Oh, yeah.
After all these years, I think we deserve it.
That's right. We're on a little bit of a dry spell. We need to pick it up a notch.
This might be the game that starts it all. The run for the roses.
What happens when they win? Is the mystique over? Is the love affair this country has with our Cubs over? We certainly hope not. We want to get to that problem. I'm hoping we're going to be re-editing the ending again of this documentary because the Cubs won the World Series, and we've got to incorporate that now.
Best Cub ever, I'd say Ryan Sandberg. All around, great defense, great offense. And he was pretty solid all the years.
I don't have a best Cub ever. I used to have a favorite pitcher. His name was Charlie Root.
It's close between Banks and Williams.
This is generational, Ernie Banks.
Yeah.
I would go with a guy by the name of Charlie Grimm. And the reason I pick him is he's the closest that we have to Casey Stengel. He used to be a clown. He used to play a ukulele. And he wasn't a bad ball player. He had a .295, I believe, career batting average, following a home run. In those days,
the next batter.
The next batter had to be where? So when the Cub hit a home run and he was next up in the batter's box, he laid down in the batter's box and said, throw the ball.
This is a pitch.
Garvis fires away.
As a kid growing up, I had Mr. Cub, Ernie Banks. Of course, we also had Santo and Billy Williams, and then Fergie Jenkins came on. We always had some of the greatest players in the game.
And who was the ultimate Cub?
Ernie Banks. I mean, that's I think the only answer you could really give.
I'd have to say Santo. I'm a third base guy, so he's my boy.
A duplicate of the play before.
Yeah. Patty, all-time favorite? Who are you thinking?
I don't know.
Who are you thinking?
Ernie Banks, maybe.
Ernie, big number 14. The flag's flying out there. I would have to say Billy Williams. We're gonna hit for power, hit for average. My hero, Billy Williams.
It's over, the Cubs win it on the Billy Williams home run.
Ryne Sandberg. He could run, he could hit, he could field. Can't ask for much more.
Favorite all-time Cub?
Oh, well, I got a lot of them. Ernie, all of them. Santo.
That's pretty well hit. Get ready for number 300. Back. Hey! A home run for Santo, the 300th of his career. September 21, 1971, Santo did it.
I've seen them all. I love them all. They're great.
What was the best Cub moment? Again, I don't think it's taken place. Best Cub moment. I remember one time when I saw Hank Aaron consistently drop fly balls to right field, being hit to right field, and the Cubs hit about 8 balls out there to right field in a row, and he dropped about 4 of them because he didn't know how to play right field, because it's a very difficult position to play in Wrigley Field because of the glare coming over the grandstand.
How much did the Cubs lose by?
And they still managed, you're right, they still managed to lose the game. But they just kept hitting balls to right field, and Hank kept dropping them because he didn't know how to play the position in Wrigley Field. And finally, their great center fielder, Bill Bruton, the Braves center fielder at that time, he had to come over in the middle of the game and show Aaron how to play right field in Wrigley Field, and then they hit about 3 more out there, and Aaron caught all of them, and they stopped doing it. But just one pitch after another.
My best Cub moment, I think, again, I'm younger, was October 1984, their first postseason appearance in 39 years. And I remember it vividly. I was a freshman in University of Illinois, and I was offered tickets and psychology exam or nothing. I was gonna go there, and I remember vividly Rick Sutcliffe starting, and I believe in that game he hit a home run.
Here it is. There's a drive. Hey, back.
And I think they ended up winning that game 12-1. My grades, needless to say, suffered, but I was in enjoyment for many days until the Leon Durham episode, which I don't really want to talk about right now.
The pitch. Ground ball. Oh, right through Durham's leg. The game is tied.
It's still painful.
The feeling in the stadium when we swept that doubleheader, even though we didn't at that point even have to win the second game, but just that feeling of, man, we are going somewhere with this team. And it just, because you were on that roller coaster all season long, and it came down on the last day, and I mean, that was best, and potentially one of the worst moments when you figure out what was going to happen to you a couple weeks later. But
I think for me, sitting out on the bleachers with probably 10 friends when Rhino cranked one over the wall. He's just one of those guys we always all got behind. He was a good character, incredible athlete, and just one of those probably game winner. I think it was against Houston. I don't know what year it was. It's one of his last years, but just to see him on the at the end of his career, just still be able to smack the heck out of it.
The most exciting moment I've ever been part of, I think, in professional sports was at the first game of the playoffs against the Marlins, when, with 2 out in the 9th, Sammy Sosa represented the tying run and hit a home run to tie the game in the bottom of the 9th. I mean, that was an electric moment. Great moment.
I think for me was when Sandberg hit that home run off Bruce Sutter.
There it goes! Way back! It may be! It could be! It is!
It was just a great day. I mean, I spent it with my dad, and he had a rare day off. And I know we were just kind of hanging around the house, being kind of lazy, just relaxing, enjoying ourselves. And watching that game was really special. For the city, Boys of Zimmer was big. 89 was big, but I don't know, last year was pretty huge too. That's a tough one.
Ball 3, strike 2. Here it goes. Ground
Everybody's
ball.
choice for most valuable player in the National League is with us on the.
Who's the best announcer?
Yeah, I got to go with maybe a strange choice. Pat Piper, the Cubs announcer for 50 years at the game. Attention, please. Get your scorecards and pencils ready. As a kid,
wonderful?
he was the longest Cubs employee. I think he worked for the Cubs for over 61 years.
Clubhouse man has been there longer.
Oh,
Yosh Kiwanuka.
What about the announcers on the air, though, now?
The announcer on the air, probably Jack Quinlan.
Yeah,
Died in a car wreck.
Died in a car wreck. As a kid, I used to enjoy Pat Flanagan.
Were Bart Wilson and Joe Wilson, who they were together, was that father and son?
Joe.
Yeah, was that father and son, though?
No.
You know the most uncomfortable pairing? Milo Hamilton and Harry Carey. Those are two people that really didn't get along.
They didn't like it.
Yeah.
Because Milo felt slighted when Jack Brickhouse retired. He wanted the #1 gig.
What about Jack Brickhouse or Harry Carey? Nobody's.
Harry Carey was great. I mean, I enjoyed listening to him spelling the guys' names backwards and having a ball with all of them.
Joel, you're making a face. You don't like him?
No, Harry Carey was fine.
Yeah.
The only thing is, he's so identified also with St. Louis and with the White Sox. I mean, he came to Chicago through the White Sox, and he started his shtick with the White Sox, really, and then he went cross town.
But you can't hold that against him because Ron Santo played for the White Sox.
Well, that's
too.
true, that's true.
Announcers, what about Steve Stone?
He's a color guy. He doesn't count as an announcer.
That's right.
We'll let him know that.
For all you youngsters out there, he's a really good announcer.
Yeah, you know, we had another good color guy by the name of Lou Boudreau. He was a great color.
Him and Vince Lloyd, good team.
Yeah.
But no, Stone, as far as color guys go, Stone's about as good as they come.
I mean, he calls the pitches. He tells you what the pitcher's gonna pitch, and he does.
Jarvis fires away.
The generation before Harry Carey enjoyed Jack Brickhouse calling the Cubs games on TV. His signature, back, back, back. Hey, he did it! That a boy, Ernie!
Hey, he did it! Ernie Banks got number 5.
Long after Jack retired, he was interviewed one time, and he was asked how it felt to have broadcast 5,000 Cub games and that 3,000 of those were losses. Without missing a beat, Jack said, well, 2,000 broadcasts were victories, and nobody else has ever done that. Who's the best announcer the Cubs had?
Harry Carey. Lou Boudreau is my favorite. He was pretty good.
You know, we mentioned announcers to everybody, and nobody brought up Brickhouse. And yet he called more Cub games, more ball games than anybody in the history of baseball.
Right.
Where does he fit into the scheme of this? It became Harry Carey's team, didn't it?
Yeah. For most of our generation, I think that's the case, yeah.
That's a contemporary scenario.
In the 50s, the attendance was not that good. By the end of September, you would get less than 1,000 people on occasion.
That's why I loved it.
In the afternoon, and this all started in the 60s when it became a media event, and then the media played into it. Chicago became at least the Midwest team. In the afternoon, the only game on TV, and then WGN started this mini network, the only game on was the Cubs. So people all around the Midwest, for sure, and then all around Chicago, if they were watching a game during the day, it would be the Cubs. So they became something of a national media darling.
You notice that now, and for a lot of years, whenever there's the Cubs play out of town, there's a big contingent of Cub fans in every park. The Cubs go to St. Louis, or even when they go to the West Coast.
Because I think what
Arizona, they're full of Cub fans.
WGN marketed them extremely well in, I would say, probably beginning in the 70s. And they were marketed and became almost like the country's team.
So how come we don't see that with the Yankees?
because everybody hates the Yankees.
Chicago people are just so transplanted, and the Cubs fans are so universal.
I grew up on the South Side, and I'm a Cubs fan because of WGN. We didn't get a chance to watch the Sox because the Sox were on, I think, in television at the time, or on TV, if you remember that. And Chicago was like the first cable thing, was a sports thing, sports, whatever it was. And all you could get was the Cubs. So you'd watch the Cubs all day long, and that's who you'd follow. Dave Kingman, Jody Davis, Keith Moreland, the Sarge, Gary Matthews, Barry Foote breaking glass windows, back in the day.
It is such a big, happy family at the end of the day. It's a big family, and we're all proud to be Cubs fans.
But they break your heart every time.
You know what? They can keep doing that just like my wife. Edit. But, at the end of the day, we're proud to be part of that
I don't care what Pittsburgh says, Cubs all the way.
It's just that this aura that surrounds Wrigley Field. Right. Whether you're in it, whether you're at Murphy's across the street or Cubby Bear on the opposite end, or the rooftop, there's this aura about being around that stadium and just the energy that it has no matter what's going on. And I think the rooftops are just a part of that. Yeah. And it's a little unique to obviously any place else that I can think of.
I've only been to the rooftops maybe 3 times in my life, but it depends on the view you have. But I mean, I'd rather be in the ballpark in some ways, but there really is something very nice, and you get to know the people around you, and the food and drink are much more convenient. It's so there's something to be said for rooftops.
Yeah, the rooftops are really cool.
Are you watching the game up there, or is it just a party?
Both. Kind of like how it is in the stadium.
I'd say though, when they were a little bit more rickety and a little more dangerous, I think the rooftops had a little bit more mystique. Now that they're all sanitized, clean, and corporately sponsored, I think, and the battles between the city, it's just something unique to the ballpark. And again, I think the carnival atmosphere that surrounds Wrigley is what makes every little component is important.
Well, I think you got more fans outside of Wrigley Field than some people draw inside their park. Montreal and sometimes the Sox, but Tampa Bay. We might have 8, 9, 10,000 people outside of a game going on, and then the people can't draw that in their own stadium.
It's like the world's largest beer garden. I mean, it's just a blast. You got everything around it. I live a mile away from it now. When there's a game going on, there's a buzz like no other, and you're in a neighborhood, and there's no other place like it except for maybe Fenway Park.
Just the atmosphere on the north side, I guess. It's a fun day, fun night if it's a night game, Come out here, see the Wrigley fans, everybody who lives here. It's just a great place to be. Good time.
It's a ballpark in a neighborhood. You feel like they're really part of the city.
People really weren't talking about any hex in '69. And so this is built up over a number of years, the business about a hex or a curse on the Cubs. So the incident with Bartman was like so out of the blue. It wasn't even on the playing field. You have to think there was something to it. So it was so disappointing. And they were so close at the time, and the collapse was so sudden and complete.
Yeah, immediately, I don't think most people thought too much about it right away. Because Pryor's still on the mound, we still only need 5 outs, no big deal. And then the Gonzalez error happens, and then you start thinking, well, we'd be out of the inning by now, and then it all just imploded from that. I think the emotional high that the stadium was on down to that low made it just so painful.
Throughout that whole game, and I was there too in the stadium, I felt like something was going to unravel, and you like to pinpoint to one instance like Bartman's thing or the Gonzalez error, but at the same time, you're just like, God, the team really did it to themselves. You can't help but blame the team too in some way. Take all the mystique out of it and the GOAT and everything else. It's just, that was the one thing I felt like the Cubs didn't share any of the blame.
You just had that guttural feeling. It's always inside that something's not right, and we're worried about the outcome because of that pessimistic dark cloud that we're always concerned about following a team.
Lovable losers is definitely part of it, but I think now that we've gotten a taste of what it could be like, I think everyone's kind of gotten over that part of the mystique and are ready to see this team actually accomplish something.
So we were talking about, Atlanta had the Superstation too, and so did WGN. Why did GN grow and the Cubs fan base grow in Atlanta? the curse is another one of the things to it. Wrigley Field is one piece. Chicago's a bigger city than Atlanta. It's a more transplanted city. And then the curse. We were at the game on Tuesday night, and that horrible call by the umpire to not get the third out of the inning when we were tied, and so everybody was like, you start believing in the curse. And and then Kyle Farnsworth got 2 strikes on this guy, and he throws a pitch that really wasn't that bad a pitch, and the guy ropes it for a double. You start thinking, what's going to happen next?
Right. It's one individual game, and guys are going to slump. You see that and we're all human beings. It's just I think that's the way it works. But at the same time, with the lovable losers, you start believing that there is something going on. But to talk about the Cubs fandom, you go down to the Diamondback Stadium, and everybody there, because of the notoriety of the pitfalls we've had, knows all of this information. They know everybody knows Bartman's bio. Everybody knows about the GOAT. Everybody knows about Sam, in the tavern. It's insane.
I went to the Billy Goat this morning. I had a triple cheeseburger. Why did I have a triple cheeseburger? Hey, because I'm a big guy. Hey, you got to have a triple, right? I had the triple.
So are you willing to wait another 97 years if that's what it takes?
I don't know if I've got another 97 years in me. But hey, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes.
Now, Patty saw Bartman drop the ball.
Yeah, that was just a...
You're just a youngster. You got to understand it.
I don't know.
You got to have a lot of years of disappointment. You got to get hardened up on this whole thing.
I don't have that yet.
What's it like being a Cubs fan and they never can get to the series?
Pretty sad, I guess, but it's okay. They'll make it one day after the Billy Goat curse wears off.
When's it gonna wear off?
Prior. Hopefully. Wow. Yeah, today. Hopefully today.
And getting to the games these days demands loyalty and persistence from the fans. Oh, sure, if you live in the neighborhood, just walk on over. After all, Wrigley sits in the middle of the near north side. Unlike most suburban shopping mall ball fields today that require a 45-minute drive each way. Or just take the L, or the bus, or the cab. When I was a kid of about 12 or 13 back in the mid-60s, my buddies and I would get a ride to the Howard Street L. We'd take the L to the ballpark, buy our ticket, our hot dog, Coke, Frosty Malt, take the L back home, put a dime in the phone and call one of our parents to pick us up. We also gave our folks the change from the $2 they gave us to take to the game. The best way to the game is to squeeze in the back seat with friends who drive. If you park at Wrigley, you better drive a Mini Cooper. You better have a double sawbuck in your pocket, and you better have inherited a reserve space on someone's lawn from your grandfather. These parking specialists expect to know you by name. Many will make most of their annual income from, say, the spaces around the house. Of course, things are changing here too. The city is changing the rules and cracking down. Hey, if they're adding 1,800 seats and putting a restaurant in center field, you can bet a lot of things are changing.
It's been 97 years since they won a World Series?
That thought never crosses my mind.
You want to wait one more year?
Yeah, I'm willing to wait 1 year. One more year, every year.
Of course, you don't have to be a kid to show up wearing part of a Cubs uniform, particularly the shirt of your favorite player. The many street vendors around Wrigley practically demand it. And if you could juggle, you're part of the street sideshow.
Yeah, I'm a big Cubs fan. I've been coming here since I was 1 year old. I wish we'd win, but we stink right now. What are you going to do?
Ronnie and I aren't real happy about the loss today.
They got 109 games left, so they'll be all right,
We have a lot of
And if you show up dressed like a player, complete with cleats, your life as a fan might change dramatically. Witness Ronnie Woo Woo.
Well, a lot of people ask me what the woo-woo means. I said win-win. I want the Cubs to win,
He claims to have attended over 2,500 games at Wrigley, and that makes him the mascot of the streets.
I was raised on the south side, and I come up here, and then I didn't want to get in no trouble with the gang, so I come to the ballpark to get out of trouble, So I'm 63 years old,
My first baseball, I saw Jackie Robinson play, you know. I saw the All-Star game in 1962. It was Roberto Clemente, Hank Aaron, Willie Mays. Out of the 15 top home run hitters, I've seen 12 of them. So that's an honor to see that in baseball, you know.
Oh, yeah. Woo! Oh, yeah. He says he's never had to pay for a ticket to see a game. Woo-woo!
People come up to me and say, Ryan, I remember me when I was small, and they remember me. It's an honor. People come and think about you, you know. How you doing? I just do it for the love of the game, you know. People ask me, what is my biggest year of coming out here, you know? I always say, this is a good year because I'm still here.
Yeah, gotta love that woo-woo. Okay, I've thought about this for at least 10 minutes, and I believe there are about 8 kinds of true love involved in being a true Cubs fan in Chicago. Stick with us and see if you agree. Cub fans love summer. Hey, it's Chicago, and who doesn't love Chicago in the summer? Why do Chicagoans love summer? Why do they love to wear shorts and sit in the sun watching a 3-hour baseball game? If you've been in Chicago between Thanksgiving and April Fool's Day, you know Chicagoans have been mostly cold and windblown for those 5 months. And they mostly look like Eskimos, Siberians, or just big, blocky, padded refrigerator people. How the heck do you decide who's cute in winter when they're wrapped from head to toe in earmuffs, mufflers, caps, parkas, gloves, overcoats, leg warmers, boots, and galoshes? Starting in mid-April, it's time to loosen up, show what you got, and yell for the Cubbies. Chicago summers are usually really nice. 72 to 80 at Wrigley, with a slight breeze off the lake. A perfect day for baseball. Break a sweat standing by the right field fence, lifting a plastic cup of Old Milwaukee or a soda. Heaven. You gotta love the other fans. They come in all shapes, sizes, and ages. But 3 things you could safely say about the Cub fans of the game. They're mostly Northsiders, they have a give-a-damn attitude, and they're addicted to Wrigley Field.
Throwing the ball with her. Okay, the ball with her. Around the bases. Woo!
They love being part of this group of folks because you could depend on them to be there rooting for the Cubs no matter what.
You had to pick one part about the Cubs that makes them special. What is it?
The way that they play ball.
Our hometown heroes.
Yes, definitely hometown heroes.
It's like patriotism and the troops. What are you gonna do? Desert them in the tough spots? How to describe Chicago Cub fans? Their attitude.
He's got a bad start, but he's gonna keep the Cubs going all the way. Cubs all the way.
Wrigley Field is their own monster. Go Cubbies! Go Cubbies! Yeah! Go Cubbies!
You'll see many Cub fans standing up for their entire game, beer cup in hand, yammering away about Dusty Baker, Pryor's bad arm, or that hit-and-run play that just totally sucked yesterday. It's like a Chicago cocktail party with about 40,000 people to meet. Take this young lady from Astros land, Houston. She has no problem being in Chicago.
Yes. Well, you know, I want my Astros to be there, but if they can't, I'm saying Cubs and Red Sox. I want to see it happen, and I want your Cubs to win.
Another thing about Cubs fans, they seem to have great recall. Even after all that beer, they've got their memories for statistics like an Intel chip.
We had a 1-run lead into the 8th.
What inning did the Cubs lose the game in?
That would be the 9th, and that has happened before.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Cubs on the losing end of that game in the 70s, the 22-21 game, that
You're correct.
That was Ollie's game.
They also won one, 26-23.
Yeah.
Hank Wilson, 56 home runs, 109 the RBIs in one season. You know that the Cubs had an outfielder who played for them for about, he played in 700 and some games as an outfielder, and then he became a pitcher. You know who it was? No. Hal Jeffcoat.
I remember Hal.
All right. All right, well, you remember him.
All right.
His career ended about the mid-'50s, if I recall. Just about the time I was becoming interested in baseball.
Yeah, he
Or aware
won
of
13 games. His record was 13-12 with
Can
12
still
saves.
Chicagoans love baseball. It's the sport meant for Americans. Here are a few things to think about. It's a team effort, but it mostly depends on individuals coming through in the clutch. It's kind of passive-aggressive. You know, plan your strategy, wait for the right moment, keep under control, don't get angry, don't yell at the fans or umps, don't pile out of the dugout, but keep your attitude on your shoulder, grow your beard a little, then throw a fastball under the chin, let the second baseman know you might come in spikes high, and the catcher know you're coming in like a bowling ball. You've got to look dumb and play smart. Sure, the right fielder may be scratching his rump, but he knows where to play the hitter and is scoping the base runners and for the signs from the bench. Like another popular attraction, NASCAR, baseball depends on speed and good vision. Somebody in the driver's seat, the pitcher, and a good mechanic behind the scenes, the coach. And just when it looks the dullest, it's likely to get really exciting. And it lasts as long as it lasts, not bound by some stupid time clock. It's the only game still winnable in the last time frame, even if you're behind 10-0. This means heart can win. And then there are those wacky ground rules, different in every ballpark, 230 feet, 420 feet, outfield fences, the green monster, the ivy, and on and on. Crazy. I could go on, but I won't. More later in my baseball rant. What is it about the Cubs that make fans so Cub fanatic?
Wrigley Field. It's Wrigley Field.
First time at Wrigley Field and they had to lose, but that's okay.
Well, it's much more of an experience now. It's more with who's there. Kids aren't there anymore. There's young adults there, and there's a lot of drinking going on and socializing.
Fans love Wrigley Field. The Friendly Confines, built in 1914, is the second oldest Major League ballpark behind Boston's Fenway Park, built in 1912. That makes it older than most baseball fans. If you're in your 90s, you'll probably be watching the game on TV or listening on radio. But wouldn't it be neat to have a day at Wrigley honoring Cubs fans 90 and older? If you're a youngster and a true fan, it must be pretty cool to come to the same ballpark that your great-grandfather came to when he was a kid, to cheer on the same team.
My dad was bringing me up here when I was 4 years old. I love him. It's just the mystique. I love being here. My granddaughter. I'm bringing her now. This is her first game today. She's just gotten started, yeah.
There's been a lot of baseball history made on this patch of earth. When you see the old black and white footage, you can almost see it happening in color and right in front of you when you're at Wrigley.
Then truly it was the beauty of the park because of the vines and because of the way the landscaping was and because of the architecture of the park.
And I went to both. I went to Old Comiskey and Wrigley Field, but going to Wrigley Field was so much more of an event.
Is Wrigley Field most of the reason to be a Cub fan?
No, I think you
certainly helps.
Yeah, I think you see that from just the fans on the road. You go to out of town. And
There's something about though playing hooky with 40 other thousand people who should be at work and aren't. You know, there's a lot of fun there to be had.
It's a medicine. It's a medicine. You come out here, you see the fans, and win or lose, you can be in a bad mood. Come to Wrigley Field, see the ballpark, see the bleachers, things like that. It's just amazing, you know. So I do it for the love of the game. You come to the ballpark and meet a lot of good people. You can be in a bad mood, come to Wrigley Field, see the vines and the blue sky. It's wonderful. It's great for baseball.
Have you noticed the trend in new baseball parks lately? The architects are trying for a retro look in the new buildings. Something that connects visually with the traditions of baseball in a time period when the game was a national pastime and not transmitted night and day on television. Well, Cub fans know that you can't build history, you have to preserve it. Oh, sure, the Cubs are now owned by a big media company, the Tribune Corporation, but they are savvy enough not to try to change the ballpark name to Tribune Field. Talk about a backfire in public relations. They seem to know that the fans are the true franchise. Wrigley was, of course, a family name that became a brand name of the most popular chewing gum of all time. There's a bit of irony in that, too. If ball players chew, it's most likely a tobacco product, or maybe sunflower seeds. Nobody wants to try to get old bubble gum out of their spikes, but there's still a lot of gum chewing in the stands, unless you're old enough to drink a brewski, of course. Originally known as Weigman Park, Wrigley Field was built on the grounds once occupied by a seminary, and Cub fans have been praying for a championship ever since. The Wrigley Field bleachers and scoreboard were constructed in 1937 when the outfield area was renovated to provide improved and expanded seating. The original scoreboard remains intact. The original vines were purchased and planted by Bill Veeck in September 1937. Veeck strung bittersweet from the top of the wall to the bottom, then planted the ivy at the base of the wall. Wrigley Field added lights in 1988. We love our Cub players. That is, until they don't love Chicago. There are very few team superstars. Cub fans don't like to see their players traded. They are mostly blue-collar guys, like most Chicagoans traditionally. That's if you overlook the sprinkle of multimillionaires here and there. Just listen to Ron Santos' color commentary on the broadcasts. He sounds like a guy in a freight dock commenting stream of consciousness to his buddies as he watches a game on a small black and white TV. Ronnie, I love you. I didn't write that. Cub fans love Chicago, and they love wins even more because they're not supposed to win. It's almost like an addiction some have to the lotto. I just know I won't win, but what if I do? Why do they stay? Well, it could be that Chicago is really what you want in a big American town. It has all of this and more. Ethnic diversity, a great downtown, music, restaurants and cafes, the lake. It's like being on your own ocean except with fresh water, not that annoying salty stuff. Theaters and comedy, the Chicago River. The winter is cold, not some pretend winter where it's cloudy with a cold rain for a few weeks. Chicago's winter is not 6 months long, but it'll make you appreciate the other 3 seasons and get out there every day. Some really neat neighborhoods and some really cool places to live. Pizza, the best there is. Writers, great writers write about Chicago, and they live here. Did we mention sports? Major teams, major fans for each team, great venues. Wrigley Field, hey, you're a fan. You know what it's like. Just the best place to watch baseball in America. What's not to love about Chicago? Did we mention the Cubs are here for 81 games between April and October, and that 27 of them are night games? And you can get a Chicago-style hot dog at every one. What a town. Love it that you can meet your mate at a Cubs game. Oh yeah. And what do you know? You've already got 7 kinds of love in common. Cub fans love that beer and the bars around Wrigley Field where you meet your mate. After all, if she or he loves beer and the Cubs, let's just say marriages and families have been based on a lot less. And if you should get lucky and meet that someone new, what's a better first date in Chicago than buying a second round for each other over at Murphy's and comparing Cubs knowledge? This could be the basis for a whole new generation of Cubs fans. You've got all winter to talk about how close they came last year, the stats, who the team needs, blah, 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 and establish your place in the pecking order of eternal Cub fans in Chicago. Well, that's our overview about us long-suffering Cub fans. We've got many more chapters to come. There are perhaps few things people talk about as deeply as the baseball team that they share in common. In Chicago, at least, the Cubs are it, and have been for almost a century. What will happen when the team finally wins the World Series? Will they ever? In the meantime, during the sunny days of summer and the frigid days of winter, We Cub fans can cheer, coach, manage, trade for players, and keep track of who goofed it up until that magic October night comes. Well, let's hope they get close one more time so we can all remain loyal to the dream. Thanks for watching. I'm Scott Farber. Go Cubbies. When we began working on this program, we talked about what would we do if the Cubs actually won the World Series? How would we go back and edit that into this show? Well, in 2004, for the first time since 1918, the Boston Red Sox won the World Series. And then in 2005, let's not even go there.
What's your nose? Is the other camera rolling?
Yep. Okay. What do you think the Cubs are going to do this year?
Lose.
Why do you think they're going to lose?
We're missing 4 players of the Cubs. Who knows? They're gonna lose.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I never get back for its root. Root for the Cubbies. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Let's get some runs.
I'm following you guys with the camera going.
Everybody knows that some sports writer way back when coined the term baseball, America's pastime, and it stuck. That was way back when Americans needed a pastime, I guess. Nowadays, most of us don't have any time left over to just pass. Nowadays, unless you're a disciplined meditator or live in a monastery, you're multitasking. Still, an afternoon baseball game is a great way to shirk work, get out of the house, drink some beer with 40,000 friends, yell and jump up and down. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe that's what they meant by pastime. And another thing, baseball is the perfect game, you know? Notice, I said game, not sport. Can you imagine if someone tried to develop extreme baseball or arena baseball or whatever cockamamie version just wouldn't work? Plus, they have the good sense to play in the warm, sunny months. Can you imagine skiing to a domed stadium in Minneapolis in December to watch baseball? Nothing's better than a little lake air drifting over Wrigley Field on a sunny day, an icy cold drink, and a 3-hour baseball game that the Cubs won in the 11th inning, or even lost in the 11th inning. One more thing, baseball has a language and you need a mentor. There's a language on the field, the arcane hand signs, the fingers to the cap, the spit, a handful of dirt, spiking the dirt, the wave off, the wink, the nod. There are hundreds, and a language off the field. A field, a dying seagull, a squeeze, a Texas leaguer, a southpaw, a bad hop, a lazy fly, throwing aspirins. There are thousands. Okay, another thing. Do you realize that not one fan, not one of you, not one, could get a hit off a major league pitcher? You might as well start your swing when he lifts his leg. Throwing aspirins, you'll never see it. Now the last thing. The genius of baseball lies in the layout of the field. 90 feet from base to base, and 60 feet 6 inches from the mound to home. A half-inch difference either way, and you've screwed it up. These are the perfect dimensions to test a human's capability to play the game. If football is a game of inches, baseball is a game of an inch. Of course, you say, what about the outfield? That can be any distance with a fence of any height. Now, doesn't that make it interesting? Oh yeah, my final thought. Props to the managers. A game of baseball is an illusion and a figment of the imagination. The imaginations of those baseball men crouching or pacing in the dugout. Those wizards behind the curtain who are playing a game of mental chess against each other through the talents, attention spans, and wills of the players they are given. If there are heroes in baseball games, they are usually placed in the position to be one by the old guy spitting seeds or chew at the dugout rails. Think about it. I'm Scott Farber. Go Cubbies.